The evening was quiet, the kind of silence that made every clock tick sound louder than it should. Anna sat by the window, watching the rain slide down the glass in thin, crooked lines. It had been 3 long months since her husband Ethan left for his overseas project. At first, she had filled her days with chores, video calls, and messages from him. But lately, even those had become rare. The house felt heavier now, too quiet, too still. Only one thing kept her from falling apart completely: her stepson. Noah. Noah was 17, tall and soft-spoken, with a kindness that always reminded her of the boy Ethan used to be when they first met. Anna had entered Noah's life when he was only 12, after his mother passed away. Over the years, she had become more than just his father's wife. She had become his friend, his comfort. They respected each other, kept their distance in a good way, and built a quiet understanding. But with Ethan gone, even that bond began to feel different, closer, heavier with emotion neither of them knew how to name. That night, the storm outside seemed endless. The heater had stopped working, and the house grew cold enough to make her breath visible. She went upstairs to check on Noah, hoping he had a blanket or at least some warm clothes. But as she passed by his door, she heard the sound of running water. The bathroom light was on, and she could hear the faint clatter of something falling. Her heart skipped. She knocked quickly. "Noah, you're okay in there?" There was no answer, just a low sound of pain. Without thinking, she pushed the door open. The steam had fogged the mirror, and the air was freezing. Noah sat on the floor, half wrapped in a towel, his ankle twisted awkwardly. A shampoo bottle lay broken near him. "I slipped," he muttered, embarrassed. His face was red, not just from the cold, but from the shock of it all. Anna's worry took over before anything else. She grabbed another towel, knelt beside him, and helped him sit up straight. "You shouldn't move," she said, her voice calm but full of concern. She checked his ankle carefully, her fingers gentle. "Does it hurt?" "A little," he said, trying to sound strong. "It's just the tiles. They're slippery. You shouldn't be showering when it's this cold," she scolded softly, wrapping the towel around his shoulders. "You'll get sick," he smiled faintly, the kind of shy smile that softened even the hardest moment. "You sound like Dad." The mention of Ethan's name made her chest tighten, but she didn't let it show. She stood up and helped him to his room. His limp was small but noticeable. Once he sat on the bed, she brought a warm cloth and started drying his hair. Her movements were motherly, instinctive. But as her hand brushed against his temple, a strange feeling caught her off guard. For a second, time seemed to freeze: the soft touch, his quiet breathing, the warmth between them. She pulled her hand back quickly, her heartbeat faster than it should have been. It wasn't that she felt something wrong, it was just confusing, unexpected. She reminded herself that this was her stepson, the boy she had helped raise. And yet, in that tiny moment, she saw how much he had grown, no longer a child, but a young man who carried his father's features and a kindness that felt deeper than she had ever realized. "I think you'll be fine," she said, forcing a small smile. "I'll bring you some soup." "Thanks, Anna," he replied quietly, his voice low and sincere. She left the room, closing the door softly behind her. But as she walked down the hallway, her mind wouldn't stop replaying that moment, the fall. His smile, the way he looked at her with quiet trust. She shook her head, trying to clear it. "You're just tired," she told herself. "That's all." Downstairs, the house was dark except for the soft glow from the kitchen light. She poured the soup into a bowl, her hands slightly trembling, though she didn't know why. Every sound from upstairs made her heart jump. She didn't understand why such a simple moment had left her so unsettled. When she returned to his room, Noah was already lying down, his ankle propped up on a pillow. "I'll be okay," he said when she came in. "You don't have to worry so much." She placed the tray on his nightstand. "It's my job to worry," she said gently. He gave her a tired smile, then looked away. "Thanks for helping me." "You don't need to thank me," she said softly. "We're family." But even as she said it, the word family echoed strangely in her chest, like something that used to fit perfectly but now felt slightly out of place. She stood there for a moment longer, unsure whether to stay or leave. Then, before the silence grew too long, she turned and walked out, her footsteps echoing faintly in the hall. The storm outside had grown louder, wind brushing against the windows. She stood by her own room's window and stared at the dark streetlights flickering through the rain. A part of her missed Ethan deeply, the laughter, the closeness, the warmth they once shared. But another part of her, quieter and more hidden, was beginning to feel something new, something she didn't dare name. It wasn't about desire or attraction, it was about connection, about feeling seen again after months of being invisible. It scared her how easily it had happened, how natural it had felt to care so deeply for someone who wasn't really hers. Later that night, she couldn't sleep. The sound of rain against the roof was constant, almost soothing. Her mind wandered back to Noatha, where he had tried to be strong, the way he had smiled even in pain. She remembered drying his hair, how gentle that moment had felt. It wasn't romantic, it wasn't wrong, but it was powerful, real, and it left her restless. In that quiet, lonely house, two people were lying awake in different rooms, both thinking about the same brief moment neither of them could explain. Upstairs, Noah turned on his side, staring at the ceiling. He didn't understand what he was feeling either. He only knew that Anna's kindness, her touch, had stayed in his mind longer than it should have. It wasn't attraction, it was something deeper. He had always admired her, but tonight something in her eyes had changed. She wasn't just his stepmother anymore. She was someone carrying pain, loneliness, and love in ways he had never noticed before. Downstairs, Anna closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She told herself it was nothing, that everything would go back to normal in the morning. But deep down, she knew something had shifted, something small but powerful, something that would change everything in the days to come. And as the storm continued outside, neither of them could shake the same unspoken thought. Sometimes life takes an unexpected turn, not loud or dramatic, but quiet and slow, like the soft sound of rain against a window. The morning after the accident, the house felt different. Anna woke early, but the usual warmth of routine was gone. The silence between her and Noah at breakfast was new, uncomfortable in a way she couldn't explain. He sat across from her, eating cereal quietly, his eyes focused on the table. Every few seconds, she caught him glancing up, only to look away again. It wasn't awkwardness exactly, it was awareness. Something invisible hung between them, something that neither of them dared to talk about. Anna tried to brush it off. She told herself that last night had just been stressful. He'd slipped, she'd helped him, that was all. But deep inside, she knew it wasn't that simple. There was a new energy in the house, a tension built not from words, but from silence to distract herself. Anna threw herself into chores. She cleaned the kitchen, did laundry, made lunch. But her thoughts kept circling back to Noah. Every time she heard his footsteps upstairs, her heart reacted before her mind could stop it. "You're overthinking," she muttered, shaking her head. But the more she tried to forget, the clearer it became something had changed between them. Quiet but real. Later that day, Noah came downstairs, limping a little but moving better than the night before. He had a small smile on his face. "The heater's still not working," he said, trying to sound casual. "Want me to take a look?" Anna hesitated. "You should rest." "Your ankle, it's fine," he interrupted gently. "I can handle it." She gave in and followed him to the basement. The air was cold and dusty, the smell of metal and old pipes filling the space. Noah crouched by the heater, turning knobs and checking wires while she held a flashlight. They worked quietly, exchanging small words about nothing important. Yet even those tiny exchanges carried a strange softness, a sense of care neither of them knew how to describe. At one point their hands brushed when she passed him a wrench. It was a small thing, barely a touch, but it sent a shiver through her. She froze, pretending to adjust the flashlight, hoping he hadn't noticed. But he had. She could tell by the way he cleared his throat and looked away quickly. After a few minutes, he got the heater running again. The warmth slowly returned, humming through the pipes. "There," he said with a proud grin. "Told you I could fix it." Anna smiled, though her chest still felt tight. "Thank you. You really did it." He stood up and winced slightly at his ankle. She reached out, steadying him. Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. There was nothing romantic in it, nothing planned, it was just two lonely people trying to hold on to something familiar in a house that suddenly felt too big. Anna pulled her hand back. "You should sit down," she said quickly. "Yeah," he murmured, his tone unreadable. The rest of the day passed slowly. Anna tried to act normal, but her thoughts were restless. She found herself listening for his footsteps, wondering what he was doing, then feeling guilty for even thinking that way. She had been faithful to Ethan for years, through every argument, every absence. But now, with him gone for so long and barely calling anymore, she felt invisible. Noah, without trying, had reminded her what it felt like to be seen, to have someone notice when she was tired or sad. That evening she cooked dinner, but neither of them ate much. Noah helped her clean up afterward, careful not to limp too much. When she thanked him, he smiled in that gentle way that always made her heart ache. "You don't have to thank me for helping," he said. "You already do everything." She didn't know how to reply, so she just nodded. As she turned off the lights and started up the stairs, she heard him call softly behind her, "Anna." She stopped. "Yes, thanks for being here." Her throat tightened. "Always," she said, then went upstairs before her emotions could betray her. Later that night, she couldn't sleep again. Ethan hadn't messaged all day, not even a short goodnight. She scrolled through their old photos, their wedding pictures, the vacations where they had laughed like nothing could ever change. But now even those memories felt far away, like someone else's life. She turned off her phone and stared at the ceiling. The house was quiet, except for the faint creak of floorboards. Then a gentle knock came at her door. Her heart jumped. "Anna?" Noah's voice was soft. "Are you awake?" She sat up quickly, unsure what to do. "Yes," she answered after a pause. The door opened slightly, and he stepped inside holding a mug of tea. "You didn't eat dinner?" he said shyly. "So I made you this." She blinked, surprised. "Noah, you didn't have to. I wanted to," he said simply, placing the mug on her nightstand. The soft light from the hallway framed his face, tired, gentle, full of concern. For a moment, she saw something in his expression that made her heart ache again. He wasn't a boy anymore. He was growing into a man who understood compassion better than most adults she knew. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded. "Good night." But before he turned to leave, their eyes met. It lasted only a heartbeat, but it was long enough for both of them to feel that quiet, confusing pull that neither wanted but couldn't deny. Then he stepped out, closing the door softly behind him. Anna sat there, staring at the door long after he was gone. The tea grew cold in her hands, untouched. She wanted to tell herself that it was nothing, that he was just being kind. But the warmth in her chest refused to fade. She lay down, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face, his smile, that moment by the heater. It wasn't desire that filled her, it was loneliness, comfort, and the strange safety of knowing someone cared. Meanwhile, in his own room, Noah sat on the edge of his bed, staring out the window. The rain had stopped, and the moonlight spread faintly across the yard. He didn't understand his emotions either. He knew she was married, his father's wife, and he respected her deeply. But there was something about her sadness, the way she carried herself with quiet strength, that made him want to protect her, to make her smile again. Neither of them spoke of it the next morning. The world outside carried on as usual, but the air between them was different, filled with quiet awareness. A secret both of them wished they could ignore, but couldn't. For Anna, it wasn't about love or betrayal. It was about feeling alive again after months of silence. For Noah, it was about connection, empathy, and the ache of caring for someone he shouldn't. And as the days moved forward, their bond grew in small, unspoken ways, shared glances, quiet laughter, small kindnesses. Neither of them planned it. Neither wanted it to mean more than it should. But sometimes emotions have their own path, soft and silent, leading to hearts toward a moment they never saw coming. The storm outside had passed, but inside that house, something new had begun, something that would soon test everything they thought they understood about love, loyalty, and the fragile lines that separate comfort from confusion. The days passed slowly, but the silence between Anna and Ethan had grown into something she could no longer ignore. His calls came less often, now short, distracted, always with the same excuse. "I'm busy, Anna. We'll talk soon." But soon never came. Each day his absence felt heavier, and each night he found herself staring at her phone, waiting for a message that didn't arrive. Noah noticed. He didn't ask questions, but his eyes said everything. He saw how often she checked her phone, how she forced a smile when she heard nothing. He saw her hiding her worry behind chores and fake laughter. One evening, after dinner, she sat at the kitchen table long after he went upstairs, staring at her cold coffee. The quiet hum of the refrigerator filled the room, and for the first time, she felt completely alone in her own home. When her phone finally buzzed, her heart leapt until she saw Ethan's name with a simple, lifeless text, "Working late." "Don't wait up." "No, I miss you." "No, how are you?" Just routine words from a man who felt like a stranger now. She locked her phone and sat there, tears welling in her eyes before she could stop them. The next morning, she decided not to think about it. She focused on errands, helped Noah with his schoolwork, cooked dinner. But in the evening, while scrolling through her messages, a new notification appeared that froze her in place. It was from Mark, one of Ethan's old friends who worked with him overseas. The message was short, but it shattered everything. "Anna, I think you should know. Ethan's been seeing someone here." The words didn't seem real at first. She read them again, and again. Her fingers trembled. Her vision blurred. For a long time she just sat there, the phone heavy in her hand. Then finally she whispered to herself, "No, he wouldn't." But deep down she knew the truth. The distance. The silence. The half-hearted excuses, it all made sense now. Her chest ached. She wanted to scream, to cry, but no sound came out. Instead, tears began to fall quietly, one after another, as she tried to breathe through the pain. She had given him everything, her loyalty, her patience, her heart, and he had thrown it away. That was how Noah found her, sitting on the floor. Her phone beside her, tears streaming down her face. "Anna," he said softly, stepping closer. "What happened?" She tried to smile, but her voice cracked. "It's your father. He's been unfaithful." For a moment, Noah said nothing. Then his jaw tightened, his hands curling into fists. "He's cheating on you." She nodded weakly, unable to say the word out loud. Noah knelt beside her, his expression full of anger and sadness. "He doesn't deserve you," he said quietly. "After everything you've done for him, for me." Anna shook her head. "Don't say that. He's still your father. Stop being one the day he hurt you." Noah replied firmly. His voice trembled, not with hatred, but with frustration, the helpless kind that comes from watching someone you love break in front of you. She looked at him, her heart aching all over again, not just from betrayal, but from the kindness in his eyes. He wasn't a child anymore. He understood pain. He understood what love could do to a person. And that realization made her tears fall even harder. "Noah, I don't know what to do," she whispered. "Everything feels gone." He reached out, hesitated for a moment, then gently took her hand. "You don't have to do anything right now," he said. "You just have to breathe." His words were simple, but they hit deep. She let out a shaky breath, and for the first time in hours, she felt like she wasn't drowning alone. They sat in silence for a long time. The sound of rain outside returned, soft and steady, as if the world was mourning with her. Finally, Anna whispered, "I thought it was enough for him." "You are," Noah said immediately. "He's the one who didn't see it." Something inside her broke, not in a painful way, but in a quiet, freeing way. For years, she had held on to the image of a perfect marriage, perfect family. Now, that illusion was gone, replaced by truth ugly but real. When she finally looked up, Noah was watching her with gentle concern. His eyes, so much like his father's, yet so different, were full of compassion. "You've always been strong," he said softly, "even when things fall apart." She smiled weakly. You shouldn't have to comfort me, Noah. I'm supposed to be the adult. Adults need comfort too, he said, squeezing her hand lightly. His words melted something. Inside her, a kind of loneliness she hadn't even realized had grown so deep. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to lean against him just to feel human warmth again. There was nothing inappropriate about it. It was simple, human connection, a wounded heart finding a moment of peace. As she rested her head on his shoulder, she whispered, I'm sorry you had to see me like this. He shook his head. Don't apologize. You've always been there for me. Let me be here for you. The way he said it, steady, mature, made her eyes sting again. She wanted to say something to thank him, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, they sat there in quiet understanding, both realizing that their family, their world, had just changed forever. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with memories after his promises, his touch. She thought about the years they had built together, only for him to tear them down so easily. But between those thoughts, another image kept appearing, Noah sitting beside her. Calm and kind, holding her hand when she needed it most. In the morning, the sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time in days. Anna felt hollow but strangely clear. She made breakfast like usual, and Noah joined her quietly. Neither spoke much, but their silence felt different, now stronger somehow. As if both knew they would face whatever came next together. Later that afternoon, she decided to call Ethan. When he finally answered, his voice was too calm, too practiced. She asked him directly if it was true. There was a pause, a long one, before he said softly, Anna, I'm sorry. She closed her eyes. That was all she needed to hear. When the call ended, she didn't cry. She just sat there, breathing slowly, as if she was learning how to live again. Noah came downstairs, sensing what had happened. She didn't need to say it, he already knew. He walked over, stood beside her, and simply said, You're not alone. She smiled faintly. I know. Outside, the rain had stopped, and for the first time in a long while, the sun touched the windows, lighting up the house. It didn't erase the pain. But it reminded her that life still went on, that maybe healing wasn't about forgetting, but about finding small moments of peace again. And though she didn't realize it then, that moment when Noah reached for her hand without saying a word was the beginning of something new. Not romance, not confusion, but a quiet understanding between two hearts that had been broken by the same person, yet still found the strength to care. The unexpected turn in her life had arrived, not through betrayal, but through the kindness of someone who refused to let her face heartbreak alone. When Ethan finally came back home, the house no longer felt like his. He stood at the door, suitcase in hand, looking nervous and older than before. Anna was sitting at the kitchen table, calm but distant. She had already cried her tears. Now all that was left was quiet acceptance. Noah sat in the living room, pretending to read but listening to every sound. Anna, Ethan said softly, Can we talk? She nodded, her eyes fixed on the cup in front of her. He sat across from her, hesitating, knowing there was no easy way to start. I made mistakes, he said finally. I don't have excuses. I just want you to know I'm sorry. His voice cracked, but she didn't look up. You had months to say that, she replied quietly. You didn't, he sighed, guilt heavy in his voice. It didn't mean anything. I just don't, she interrupted, her tone steady but tired. Don't try to make it smaller than it was. You broke something you can't fix with words. For a long moment, neither spoke. The sound of the old clock ticking filled the silence. Noah shifted in the other room, his jaw tight, his eyes burning with anger he tried to hide. Finally, Ethan said, I'll leave if that's what you want. Anna took a deep breath. Yes, she said simply. It's what's best. For me, for you, for him. He nodded slowly, his shoulders sagging as if a weight had finally caught up to him. He looked at her one last time, eyes full of regret, but she didn't meet his gaze. He turned and walked upstairs to pack. Noah waited until he heard the footsteps fade, then came to the kitchen. Are you okay? He asked softly. I will be, she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were full of quiet sadness. "Do you want me to tell him to leave sooner?" She shook her head. "No, Noah. He needs to go on his own. This isn't about anger. It's about peace." When Ethan left later that evening, the sound of the door closing felt like the end of a chapter's sharp final, but not cruel. Anna stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty space where he had been. Then she turned and smiled faintly at Noah. "It's over," she said. He didn't know what to say. He just nodded. That night, the house was quieter than ever, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It felt lighter, like the walls could finally breathe again. Anna sat on the porch with a blanket around her shoulders, watching the sky fade from gold to gray. The air smelled fresh after the rain. Noah came out holding 2 mugs of hot cocoa. "Thought you might want this," he said, handing her one. "Thank you," she replied, her voice gentle. They sat together in silence, watching the clouds move across the sky. After a while, Noah spoke. "He didn't deserve you, Anna. You gave him everything." She smiled sadly. "Maybe, but sometimes love isn't about deserving. It's about trying, even when it hurts." He looked down, his fingers tight around the mug. "I hate that he hurt you." "I did too," she said softly, "but I don't anymore. I just want peace." The words hung in the air, quiet and calm. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had softened, replaced by something gentler: acceptance. For the next few days, they began rebuilding small pieces of normal life. Anna went back to her part-time work at the library. Noah helped around the house, cook dinner, fix things. The silence that once felt tense now felt easy. They spoke more freely, laughed sometimes, and shared stories about simpler days. One evening, Anna found herself looking at an old photo on the fridge, her and Ethan at the beach, smiling like they were invincible. She took it down quietly, replaced it with a picture of her and Noah at his high school event from a year ago. In that photo, both of them were laughing, carefree. For the first time in months, she smiled without forcing it. That night, as they watched a movie together, Noah said softly, "You seem lighter lately." "I think I am," she said. "Sometimes letting go is the only way to move forward." He nodded, understanding her in a way that words couldn't express. Weeks passed. The pain faded into memory. Ethan called once or twice, mostly to talk about Noah, but Anna kept her distance. She wished him no harm, she just didn't have space for the past anymore. Noah noticed how she carried herself differently. Now, stronger, calmer. She had stopped waiting for apologies or explanations. She had started living again. One afternoon, while they were gardening, Anna looked up at him and said, "You've grown up so much, Noah. You've been my strength through all of this." He smiled, a bit shy. "You were mine first." Their eyes met, and for a moment neither looked away. It wasn't romantic hit, was something deeper, a connection born of shared pain and quiet care. To people who had lost the same person but found comfort in each other's company. Anna took a deep breath. "You know," she said, "life doesn't always give us what we expect. But sometimes what's left can still be beautiful." He nodded, his voice soft, like a second chance. "Exactly," she said, smiling. That night, as the sun set behind the hills, Anna sat on the porch again. A blanket wrapped around her shoulders, watching the sky turn orange and pink. Noah joined her, as he often did. They didn't need to talk much anymore. The silence between them was no longer filled with confusion. It was peace. She looked at him, her heart full of gratitude. "Thank you, Noah," she said. "For what?" he asked. "For reminding me that love isn't just about promises. It's about kindness. About showing up when it matters most." He smiled, looking out at the horizon. "You did the same for me." The wind was gentle, carrying the faint scent of rain. Somewhere in the distance, a new day was waiting. Anna realized she was no longer waiting for Ethan's voice or messages. She didn't need them. What she had now was stronger self-respect, peace, and a quiet sense of closure. Noah stood up, stretching. "I'm going to make some dinner." "You want pasta?" "Only if you don't burn it this time," she teased, laughing. He grinned. "No promises." As he walked inside, Anna stayed there for a moment longer, watching the last light of day fade. The past was behind her, now not forgotten, but accepted. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't broken. She was just free. Inside, laughter returned to the house, soft and real. Life had changed in ways she never expected, but not all change was bad. Some of it, like learning to love yourself again, was exactly what she needed. And as the stars appeared one by one, Anna whispered to herself, "I'll be okay," because she finally was. The unexpected turn in her life had not been betrayal itself, but what came after it: healing, forgiveness, and the quiet rediscovery of love that asked for nothing, expected nothing, but still managed to fill the empty spaces with light.